How's everybody doing? This is Anthony Brian Logan. Welcome to my 50,000 subscriber Q&A. Now, I've been promising you this. It's going to be a while, so, grab a sandwich, grab something sweet to drink, get comfortable because it's going to be a while. I got a lot of questions to go through. I read through about 700 comments, emails, etc. And I condensed many of the questions because a lot of you asked the same question. I'm not going to read each individual question that says the same thing. And also, if you send me an email, I'll read your question, but I will not say your name unless you request me say your name. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Now, before I begin, to give you a refresher, I was born in a place called Rand, West Virginia. Shout out to Rand University, Randy Moss. No, I've not met Randy Moss, but fun fact, I was baptized when I was about 12 years old in the same church that I think his mother and his sister attended. When I was a kid in West Virginia, I would go out there in the summertime. I was born in West Virginia, but I was raised in Virginia. And I would go back home to stay with my great grandmother in West Virginia half of the summer. And also my grandmother in Roanoke and also my grandfather in Roanoke. That's a different story, but I digress. So I would stay up there and my uncle took me to get baptized in the church. Now this church, I think the church is or was run by one of my family members or close family friends that later became family. And during this period of time, this is when Randy Moss was on the Vikings. I think he might have just got signed to the Vikings, right around that same like late 90s. And his mother had this big purple Escalade outside of the church, right? In Rand, West Virginia, it's a very small town, about 1,500 people. As far as I know, his mother's very nice and also his sister. But that's a fun fact. I got baptized at that same church, and the church that his mother and his sister attended may have been run by one of my family members. So that is that story. But now I'm going to get into your specific questions. Now, Mr. Spock says, I'm a 51-year-old white dude from Minnesota. I see young, black, intelligent men like you as part of the future of America. When I see these channels from people like you, I get hopeful. We need this diversity. It is what America is all about. What I want to ask you is, how do you deal with other black people who call you Uncle Tom when you're trying to reach beyond the boundaries? How can we stop all these prejudices from all levels of the spectrum of things we are born with that we have no control? Well, you have to understand thank you for your compliment. First of all, thank you for your question. But the whole Uncle Tom thing, that's just come from people that have low IQ. They have low IQ and they have no other way to really attack you other than just to say, they have no other way of trying to rebut your claim other than trying to attack you personally. So I can't really worry about them. I can't really reach them. All I can do is reach individuals that are young coming up. And shout out to a lot of y'all, 14, 15-year-old black men and women that come to me and say, hey, you've inspired me to not cave into peer pressure. Thank you for being somebody that is a conservative as a black person. So you can show me a different way of how to be. If I'm a model for your behavior, then I think that's a great thing. But there's not much you can do about the Uncle Tom people. All you could do is just keep coming with facts. You can't be reduced down to their level of simple name calling. Just come with straight facts. And then the people that want to have a different way of thinking, they have a different way of thinking. But those that don't, they're not. Jake Daddy Yo 11, Eton 3331, Honest Oxy, Charzor, Energy, Driving Me Batty, Curtis Cooley, Cujo 24, Spart 4N02, I guess it's Spartan 02, Cameron Northcutt, Max Bachman, Dev Z1, Nick DeMarco, Tiger Shark, Asada Shino, Jacob Hunter, and Brandon Burns all asked me, what events in your life made you become Republican conservative? That is a great question, and I'm glad you asked. Now, first of all, I've been pretty much conservative my whole life. This is not anything new. This is pretty much just who I am. But politically, it came about a little bit later, but I'll get to that as I continue answering the question. Now, me being a conservative, like my whole life, just kind of how I behave, that came from a very young age. I was never really the kind of guy to be wild. I was always kind of a real calm, cool kind of guy, especially like I say when I was about 6 years old. That's when it really started. 6 or 7. Now, what happened was, I was a typical kid. in a low income kind of area in Virginia, in Portsmouth, Virginia. That's where I grew up most of my very young years. I was kind of like a hood rat. I was outside peeing on frogs. I was just, just a regular kind of hood kid, even though where we lived at wasn't really that dangerous or anything like that. But I digress. The whole point here is that I was like a typical kid, and then some events happened. One thing that happened was when my uncle passed away of HIV/AIDS. He was an IV drug user, and he died when I was about 5 or 6. This is in 1990, so I was either 5 years old or I just turned 6. And I got a picture of him, actually. That's me, obviously, on the left. And that's my Uncle Chauncey right there on the right. And you see me barefoot. I don't have any socks or shoes on right now. And you see my shirt. Same kind of shirt I got on right now. This is, this is me. This is me at about 5 or 6 years old. Right? And Uncle Chauncey died soon after this picture was taken. And this is my father's oldest brother. He was an IV drug user, and he was also a drug dealer. And he was also gay, but we don't know if the HIV/AIDS he got was because of, when he was locked up or whatever, if he was having sex in jail, or if it was because he was an IV drug user. Right. Now, I'm telling that story about my father's oldest brother. Some of you may say that's kind of personal, but my father actually gave me permission to do that. Right. So when he died, I remember the funeral. It was crazy. The funeral was like something I'd never seen before and have not seen since. Obviously, I hadn't seen it before, really, because I was a little boy, but I have not seen anything like that since. He was 37 when he died, and the funeral was so crazy. It was like, I don't remember much, but the memories I have in my mind, it was like it was me watching myself in the rest of the funeral. Like, imagine if you are remembering something when it's you as you staring at yourself and then the surroundings. I remember my face just kind of like being confused as to what was going on. I really didn't understand what was happening. And people around me were just crying. Everybody was crying. Usually at a funeral, a lot of times it's kind of like a celebratory thing. But this one was not like that. When I say celebratory, it's like not to celebrate the person that died, but it's kind of like people that you haven't seen in a long time. It's like a little family reunion. Have a little repast afterwards. And if you don't know what a repast is, it's like a little after party. Basically you go after the funeral, you go down to the basement of the church, or you go somewhere else and you eat and you talk to people you haven't talked to in a long time. It's like a little reunion, like a little family gathering. But this situation, everybody was crying, men, women, young, old, everybody. I was just confused. I didn't understand what was happening. I'm 5, 6 years old. I don't know what's going on. But as the years progressed after that, as I got a little bit older, 6, 7 years old, I'd be around my father, and he'd tell me stories about Uncle Chauncey, about how he was involved with drugs and how, that is kind of what took his life. So from an early age, I knew not to, have unprotected sex, because I didn't want to catch HIV/AIDS and die like my uncle. And also I knew not to deal with, heroin, any kind of hard drugs or anything like that. And as years progressed, I saw people in my family battle with alcoholism. My grandfather committed suicide because he was on a prescription medication that caused suicidal tendencies. So I knew from just life experience to not deal with drugs. That's why I'm against drugs. And that's part of conservatism that a lot of libertarians don't like. But I'll get to libertarianism a little bit later. And that is kind of what shaped me into being a conservative, and also a love for reading. When I was probably, I think, second grade, I got put on punishment for a month for not completing a homework assignment, which gave me a failing grade in that particular report card. So during that period of time, I just developed a love for reading. I stopped becoming that hood rat kid that was just outside doing madness. I was just pretty much inside all the time reading, reading comic books. And I got a few more comics right here. Yeah, this is on my old school comic collection here. This is one of my prize ones here. X-Men 25. When Wolverine had the adamantium taken out. Yeah, definitely. I remember buying this off of the rack right when it first came out. I remember being in the store, and you go in the store, like in the grocery store. I don't think it's the same way now, But back in the day, you used to be able to see these in the grocery store, like on a rack, right before you go to checkout. And I got some Image comics, yeah, indie stuff, old school X-Men. I got a lot of stuff. Hold on. Matter of fact, let me see if I got another one. Oh, I got Spawn. Look at that. Spawn 8. Avengers. Look at that foil cover. Beautiful comics. But yeah. Another Spawn. Oh, I was a big time Wolverine fan too. My last name obviously is Logan. So big time Wolverine fan. Let's say June '96. Yeah, so I still have these. I have them like in a plastic bin, like a Walmart bin. Humanity Lost. I guess that's the beginning of Fear Wolverine. I'm not quite sure if that was Fear Wolverine. That might have been a little earlier. But yeah, Pit, more Spawn, and I lost a lot of my comments over the years, but some of these I still have. See, and as you can see behind me, I got books here. But yeah, so I developed a love for reading. I was definitely into gaming. I was not a part of the hood stuff that was going on around me. I lived like in low income type of areas, but I was not involved with the area. Stephen Hanesh Minstry, Mayday Da Vinci, Garrett Dyer, and Kion D all asked me, what was your education and do you have a journalism background? Well, I do not have a journalism background. I took one class of journalism in high school, and that was basically like working on a yearbook. But I don't have a formal education as far as journalism is concerned. I did go to college. I went to a community college, and I have an associate's degree, Topwater Community College, and I also went to Old Dominion University in Norfolk. I went to ODU for a year, and I left after they played games because what they were doing was, I have an associate in applied science degree, but the way they were saying that the classes would transfer, a lot of my core classes did not transfer as core classes. They transfer as electives. Very weird politics stuff. Before I went to ODU, I asked a lot of people at ODU, guidance counselors, etc., will my classes transfer the way that they are in my transcripts right now? Everyone assured me yes. Everyone assured me yes, it's going to be okay. I asked people from ODU and TCC the same question. Everyone assured me everything will be okay, but it wasn't like that when I got there. Not only that, they, gave me like kind of a bait and switch. They also had some kind of process to get involved with. They also had some kind of process to get into the actual art program. When I got to school, it was these two liberal white guys. And this is part of the reason why I'm conservative as well. These two liberal white guys that were like the heads of the art department, I had to submit a project to them to show my skill level to be able to get accepted into the school. Now, mind you, already I'm kind of upset because I'm thinking, from what I've been told by guidance counselors, it's going to be okay. All I got to do is just come to ODU with my degree and automatically get placed into the next level classes. But that's not the way it worked. You had to go through a bunch of channels, and it didn't even take all your classes. And one of the channels was these two liberal white guys. Now, they saw my project that I submitted, and the project that I submitted had like cartoon guns on it. It wasn't even anything that looked realistic. It wasn't like Call of Duty or something like that. What it was like Super Mario SNES level graphics, but I drew them all vector. So I'm like, okay, this is a vector drawing. I'm trying to get into a graphic design course in college here. So they want to see my skill level. Okay, cool. I'm going to show them this piece of artwork. It has like cowboys and Indians and little cartoon guns. I drew it all with my mouse, and it was all in vector. I can provide you with the original file and everything. That was my thought process. But then when they saw it, it was like, well, this isn't the kind of work that we like here. Like, what are you talking about? Well, we're not really comfortable with the violence that you like. Violence? What are you two queers talking about? This is just cartoon guns. Stuff like that. They really denied me an opportunity to get more education. Not only that, but ODU in general, because of their funny rules. This is supposed to be some type of liberal school, outreach to minorities and all of that. That is one instance of many that kind of turned me off from liberalism, which I'll get to a little bit later. How much I'd investigate. Congrats on 50K. I appreciate it, man. I remember when you only had 200 subs. Good job, brother. My only question is, what high school did you go to? Better not be Churchland. LOL. Congratulations again, my friend. Actually, I did go to Churchland for 1 month. The quick story here, as I got to move pretty quick. I lived in Churchland from 3rd grade to 9th grade. And I went to Churchland Middle for 1 year. And then I went to Hunt Map for 2 years because of the magnet program or whatever. But that's a whole different story. But as far as Churchland High School is concerned, we were supposed to be leaving in Chesapeake just like everybody else. If you from Portsmouth, if you're from the area, you know how people left Portsmouth to go to Chesapeake as greener pastures. And for us, it was. We were living in Churchland when Ida Barber got shut down, which is a housing project. Now, if you in the area, if you're from Portsmouth or whatever, you know how that was. When they shut Ida Barber down, they gave them vouchers to come to different places around the 7 cities, Lake Edward and Virginia Beach, and also in our particular neighborhood in Churchland Square. And when they did that, it was like a pack of locusts had got released upon us. Crackheads knocking on your door all hours of the night, all kind of, screaming, hollering, people shooting more than usual. Because where I was at, you would have shootings every now and again. It wasn't really that bad of an area, but when they came, it was ridiculous. And anybody that could leave left. And that was my first experience with Black Flight, but I digress. Now, we were supposed to be leaving. My mother was buying a house in Chesapeake, right? We were supposed to be gone before the school year started so I can start high school in Chesapeake going to Indian River. But it was some kind of delay with the actual paperwork, so we had to stay for a month extra beyond the date we're supposed to be leaving. So we didn't end up going to Chesapeake until the end of September, rather than before September, before the school year started. So yes, I did go to Churchland High School for just 1 month, but then I left shortly thereafter and went to Chesapeake. Oh, and by the way, before we left to Chesapeake, some crackhead from out in our neighborhood crashed their car into the back of my mom's car in the middle of the night. I'll never forget it. It's the middle of the night. I'm hearing knocking. And I'm thinking, what is that? I'm thinking I'm dreaming. I'm middle of the night, it's dark. I'm thinking I'm dreaming, and I'm hearing it consistently. And then, we live in a small apartment, maybe 800, 900 square feet, 2-bedroom. I hear my mom in the other room. She moves. So then I get up, right? Cause if she's going to the door, I don't want one of these crackheads out here to try and, do something funny. So we go to the door. It's the police. They say, look at your car. And then that's when we found out somebody crashed their car to the back of my mom's car and left it, just ran away, totaled it. So that was our parting gift, leaving Portsmouth. Crazy. But yeah, I did go to Churchland for a month. I remember it was sinking, it had mold, all kind of stuff. And then I came to Chesapeake and went to Indian River. That's where I graduated from. Connor asked, if Donald Trump didn't get the nomination and ran third party, would you vote for him? Why or why not? Probably not if he went third party, because he won't have a good chance of winning. Illuma Rage, what kind of toothpaste do you use? And Last Cynic Standing says, yeah, what is the secret with the nice choppers? No coffee, no smoke. Well, I don't drink coffee. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I'm very square. I eat 1 meal a day. I'm really kind of one of those kind of guys that's like, kind of spiritual a little bit. But I digress on that point. But yeah, I use, I don't know what kind of toothpaste I use. I know it has peroxide in it. I think Crest, I don't even really know, but I know it has peroxide in it. And I also use just regular bottle peroxide as mouthwash. I use that before I brush my teeth, and then I brush my teeth and then rinse with water. But the teeth thing, that's kind of a hereditary thing. My mother and that whole side of the family, they got the same teeth. If you see a smile, it's the same. So I think a lot of that is hereditary. Diagnostic asked me, have you ever had any black people bully or make fun of you because you were able to read books? No, not really, because I'm kind of a big guy. So nobody really does that. If anybody does it, it's online. People that, have the shield of the internet, because what it is, it's just jealous. Like I said earlier, low IQ people, they don't have anything else to really attack you on. So they just try to kind of attack you on things that don't really matter because that's all they have. But not to my face, never. Andrew Renner asked me, what is your favorite movie? I really don't know. Favorite movie, there's a lot of movies that come to mind. I really don't know. Forrest Gump, that's one of my favorites. And also the remix to Forrest Gump, which is Benjamin Button. It's the exact same movie. A mother in the South is struggling to raise a kid. The kid has problems as a child. He has a woman in his life that's kind of in and out, kind of elusive, so close but so far away. He goes all around the world. He goes to war overseas. And then at the end of it, rather than the love interest die, he dies, right? Because he's a baby now and he's old. So yeah, that's pretty much how that goes. But I don't really know. I like a lot of movies, but I don't really have a favorite. I think Forrest Gump was one that stands out to me just because of the fact that it was two movies that were made that's the same. Baba Denvero 8 asks, who are some of your favorite YouTubers to watch and who would you recommend? Well, me personally, I like a lot of the gaming channels. I'm kind of into gaming myself. So I like the Rad Bread. I like his walkthroughs. I like Kinda Funny and Kinda Funny Games. I think they're good. They produce a lot of good content consistently. So I like them. I like Trey Smith. I like the guy, the kind of guy that has the he's got one video out right now talking about why Trump is going to win. But videos before that, he talks about like the natural world, all kind of stuff like that. I like him. Who else do I like? I like Tree of Logic. I love her. Beautiful woman, has a great personality and is straight to the point. I love her. Like if I could just see her, I'd give her a big kiss right on the mouth, straight up. But I like Some Black Guy. He's a good YouTuber. I like who else? I like Thomas Sotomayor a little bit, but not all the time. I like him in doses. I like him in doses. Stefan Molyneux, I like Stefan Molyneux, and I'll get to him a little bit later, as I got a question about him I saw in the comments. Oh, also Roberto Blake. Roberto Blake is a great YouTuber. Shout out to Roberto Blake. He is the one that really taught me how to do this YouTube thing. Not specifically me directly, like, communicating directly with me, but he has a series of videos about how to really get your YouTube cracking a little bit more than what it is. So I took a lot of that information he gave and that advice he gave, and it really helped me to get my YouTube channel just skyrocketed. So definitely shout out to Roberto Blake. And Review Tech, he's pretty cool. And that's pretty much it. A lot of Recruiter, I like them sometimes. Money Killer asks, do you know how to make money on YouTube? Go to Roberto Blake's channel, like I said earlier, and I'll probably place that in the comments below. And he has some great advice about how to make money on YouTube. Bronson asks, do you support Trump's policies of illegal immigration and allowing an easier pathway to citizenship after deportation? Also, what is your favorite NBA team and player? Well, I really don't support that. I'm not really into letting people that's over here, get an easier way to come over here. That's not really something I'm into at all. So that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Favorite NBA team and player. I don't have a specific team that I like that I root for all the time, but I like what the Warriors are doing. I like Steph Curry. He reminds me of Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, also known as Chris Jackson. I like LeBron. I don't like his behavior all the time, but I like his play. I like Dennis Schroeder, the point guard for the Hawks. He reminds me of a young Rajon Rondo. I like Rondo as well, but Rondo is kind of temperamental like LeBron is. But Dennis Schroeder, a very intelligent, very crafty kind of point guard. That's the kind of guys I like. Guys that use their brain in conjunction with their athleticism. I like that a lot. A very long name with a bunch of random letters. Shaw, QWERTY, XYZZ, Shaw asks, what are your thoughts on it being difficult to be openly conservative? My parents are very liberal and I became a conservative a year ago. What should I do? Should I tell my parents I'm Republican? Well, I say, man, just be yourself, man. Live your truth. Whatever you are, however kind of way you feel, just be yourself. And as long as you respect yourself and respect other people, do whatever you want. You know, if your parents, they love you, which I'm sure they do, then they'll support you regardless of what you do. Tom Tech 13, The Surgeon, R. Funk Hauser 1, Moreno James, Sonny, Rosa P, O'Brien Reed, Shane Casper, Tim Stout, and Dev Z1 all ask, what do you believe in as far as religion? This is a great question. Like I said, originally, I come from West Virginia. It's a very religious place. Matter of fact, I have a photo album right here. I may have some pictures of the actual place I'm about to tell you about. Now, if you go to my grandmother's house, look at this here. I know my mom's going to be mad at me for this, but look at this picture. Now, from left to right, that's my grandmother on the far left. That's my aunt right next to her. Right next to her, that's my mother pregnant with me. And right next to her, that's my aunt. That's my mother's brother's wife. And right there on the table, big Bible. And that's kind of how it is. This was in West Virginia at my grandmother's house. So you go to my grandmother's house, praying hands, Bible, everywhere. That's just kind of how it was. So I grew up with a lot of that kind of mentality in me, even though we weren't really churchgoers when we came to Virginia. But a lot of that mentality was in me about, just doing right and acting right. And I think a lot of people need Christianity. They need religion in order to keep themselves centered. Now, fortunately, people like myself, I have a pretty decent IQ. I'm not really sure what it is, maybe like 125 or higher. But for a lot of people that don't have a lot of guidance in their life, religion is very important because it helps them to be able to have a proper way, an understanding of how to behave. With a godless society, a lot of time you have an anarchist society that can't really function. Some would say that religion is a way to control people. I say it's a way to keep people sane. But having said that, matter of fact, here's another picture. This is an embarrassing picture of me and my aunt. She's tickling me here. See, look, that's me. That's my aunt. And you see on the right-hand side, praying hands. It's not really getting into focus here. There it is. Praying hands. Open Bible. Very, very religious. This is my grandmother's house. If you go in there right now in this house, it's still standing. You can pretty much see that same stuff in there right now. So that is the kind of stuff I grew up around. You saw me right there, and then you would see how I was right there seeing all that. So that's kind of how it was. Also, when I was in West Virginia, during the summertime, I go to vacation Bible school. I go to church, all that kind of stuff. So I know a lot about the Bible. I know a lot about religion. I'm not a practicing Christian, but I identify with the principles of Christianity as how I live my life. Teresa Mesheki asks, I want to know, is America truly horrifically racist, like people say? Peace and Aruhani, brother from New Zealand. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. A lot of that is just the media trying to hype things up to make people feel that way. Or I take that back. It's not them trying to hype it up to make people feel that way. It's the media feeding into what America thinks about itself. Right? I'll say that one more time. The media feeds into what they think America thinks about itself. If you want to think that if you want to think that the country is racist, then the media will provide you with that which you want to see. If you want to have examples of the country being racist, then the media will give that to you. That's just what it is. It's nothing else to do with anything else. The country is not racist. Some of my biggest opportunities in life have been given to me by white folks. I get along great with the black community. I get along great with everybody. The racism stuff is just not true. It's just people that want to believe something, that go out of the way to find it. And then the media facilitates that because people are trying to find racism and then the media gives it to them. Brandon Burns asks, how old are you? 32. Victoria Powers asks, do you like Bruce Willis or Tom Cruise? And what kind of business do you have? Well, I say Bruce Willis. He's more of a kind of rugged kind of guy. We got the same hairstyle. Tom Cruise, kind of a weirdo, with Scientology. And he, did the couch surfing on Oprah's show. Kind of a strange guy. And I'm a graphic designer. Freelance, have been for the past almost 10 years now. And before I became full-time freelance, well, I was always full-time freelance, but I was also involved with an ad agency, a black ad agency. We had probably about 15 people working, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Just Jeff and ASDFJK semicolon asks, what are your views on libertarianism? I like libertarians personally. I think they're good people, the ones that I've come across. I was on a libertarian podcast called the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. Great people. I was on another podcast called Our Big Dumb Mouth. I'm not quite sure they're libertarian or not, but they kind of come across as libertarian. I think libertarians, a lot of them are just kind of like on the fence. Libertarians to me represent the center of America. People that aren't really conservative, they don't really believe in religion and stuff like I kind of do about morality issues. But at the same time, they don't want to be liberals, to the point where it's authoritarian. They're like kind of right in the center. But I think you got to really kind of be on one side or the other, because when you're in the center like that, at a certain point, you got to make decisions that make you go to one side or the other. Because when you're talking about drugs, I mean, what are you going to do to combat the drug problem, the public health issue? What are you going to do with that? The non-aggression principle, does that always apply? Like, just like Gary Johnson, I think, is a bad representation of libertarianism. I think that you need somebody like Ron Paul or Rand Paul in there. That's a true libertarian. Gary Johnson just ain't the guy. And I think that he's giving libertarianism a bad name. And people that want to come into the camp think that being libertarian is like him when it's not. But still, at the same time, you guys need to have more of a central guiding light that's a little bit stronger than the NAP. And if it's going to be the NAP, then the NAP should be followed. It's kind of, I digress. The whole point is that I think they're kind of right in the center, but they don't really fall on one side or the other. But at a certain point, you got to be on one side or the other. Kathy Van Adder asks, I'm a 66-year-old white Christian woman. I spent 10 years, age 32 to 42, working in a low-income neighborhood of blacks and whites, using the church bus to carry children to Sunday school and church each week. I don't know the total impact of that, but how can we make families great again? How can we get the word to young people that having the most popular boy's baby in high school is not cool? How can we show them that it's a human tragedy when both parents are not committed to each other? What can we as a society do to change our destructive culture? Change TV, go back to neighborhood schools, improve our church people, win the drug war, yell information from the rooftops. What? Well, the simple solution is you just got to get harder on crime. That's it. Get harder on crime and take away the welfare state. Take away the welfare state and get harder on crime. You take away the welfare state, that disincentivizes people to have children outside of wedlock, right? Because they know that the government is not going to be there to just rescue them. And also, people that commit crime get very hard on them. It won't be a glamorous thing to be a drug dealer if you know that the drug dealer is going to get 25 years of life for selling crack, rather than just getting out right away and going right back to the neighborhood to show off all his wares that he got from selling crack. People don't want to do that because they say it's racist. They say that it's discriminatory. But what else are you going to do? Guy MT asks, do you like Pokemon? And if you like Pokemon, which one do you like? I don't like Pokemon. I never did like Pokemon, even when I was a kid. I was an X-Men guy, like you saw from my comics earlier. Visionary Raps asks, what do you have to say about people who criticize Trump without watching the debates? Again, that goes back to the whole low IQ thing. If you don't want to have information, if you're not really interested in what's going on in the world, then, I mean, what are you going to do? Patry asks, this is a little personal, but I just wanted to know what you think. So, as an adult who is white and a French immigrant, I never understood why people, black or white, had focused on my skin color when growing up in a new country. I always felt like I had to stay in my group. I couldn't go to that other group. That's just the danger of this country, because that's kind of what it was based upon. You know, you had the slavery stuff, and then it was like a white society and a black society. It's kind of like South Africa, where you had apartheid, where it was blacks only, whites only. And a lot of that still is around today. You got black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods. It's not like a lot of mixing. even where I'm at right now, I could pretty much drive around and point to the black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods. And it's not even about poverty, because there's white poor neighborhoods and there's black poor neighborhoods. And there's white areas of people that have money. And there's also black areas, people that have money. People are just, they're different. And a lot of the country was based upon people being different and not being around each other. So that's kind of the basis of the country. It is what it is. Louis JB asks, Amaya Phantom Sotomayor, like I said earlier, in doses. William Saunders, A721460, Miguel Escobar, Rebecca McFatridge, Dev Z1, number 8, Baxter Romington, and Eric Horton all asked me, what led you to start your YouTube channel and how has it affected your life? Well, it was just kind of a natural progression with me, because I was always kind of like on forums. I was on All Hip Hop back in the day, BX. I was on different forums just talking to people, and just, you know, and just where I was just in life when we had the ad agency, it was a lot of guys in there talking about 5% Nation stuff and all kind of stuff that I was just interested in getting knowledge. And then I was always just kind of debating people all the time on social media forums, etc. for years. I'm talking about like as far as 2002, 2001, like years and years and years, just as something to do, like a hobby. Like at one point in time, I had school and work like all day, every day. And I come home, I might game a little bit, might go with a young lady, you know, do whatever we do. And then I get on the forums and just talk about politics and stuff like that. And I do that for years. So it was a natural progression when I saw people like Sargon of Akkad. Because when I first started, all I had was this BlackBerry right here. Oh yeah, I have a BlackBerry. All I had was this phone when I first started doing my YouTube stuff last year. And I would just go in my room back there. By the way, behind that flag is my bedroom. I'm in my second bedroom right now. I'm in a very small apartment. It's like 900 square feet. This room is very small. You know, this wall back here is not that far away. I can almost reach out and touch it. But I digress. So I'll just be on this phone, like in my closet, so it wouldn't pick up all the sound everywhere. And I'll just record voice, because I saw Sargon of Akkad. I'm like, hey, he has a lot of subscribers. You don't even see his face. All you hear is just his voice. I'm saying I can do that and get the point out there, because I never even thought about doing YouTube, really. I was just content just talking about politics just all the time for free, online and offline. So when I saw him doing it, and then I saw his Patreon account, I saw how much money he was making. I was like, you can make money for real? So I can do what I'm doing right now for free for the past 10, 15 years or whatever, and I can get money for it. So I was all in, you know? So it wasn't even about the money, because like I say, I had been doing it already. It was just kind of an incentive to get on YouTube so I can get it to a higher level and make money. You see what I'm saying? A lot of guys, they get on YouTube just to make money, but there's no passion about it before they start. With me, it was a passion I've been doing already. Oh, and also it affected my life tremendously, because before that, I don't want to get too long into a story because I got a lot of questions to get through. I'm not even nowhere near done. But it was a tremendous impact on my life, because what happened was before that, I had no car. I sold my car back in like 2012. You know, that's a long story that I don't have time to get into. But basically, being self-employed, you have ups and downs. At one point, I had a big up. You know, I got a check one time for like $13,000 back in like 2009. I gave a lot of individuals money, and I did not have enough really for myself to have working capital. So for a long time after that, I kind of struggled with money. You know, I'm asking for money and stuff like that from my parents. And what ended up happening was I had to sell my car to keep afloat, because at that point it was, okay, either sell your car or get evicted. Yeah, I did not want to get evicted. You know, I had somewhere to go. I could have gone back to my mother's house or to live with my father, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to live with either one of them, because I think that'd be unfair to them and also unfair to me. And at the time, I'm like 28. I'm not trying to be that guy to go back and live with his parents. I didn't want to do it. And then also becoming evicted, you got a mark on your record. I just didn't want to do it. So I sold my car, and that was enough for me to get caught on my rent and also to be able to stay where I'm at right now. and that was in 2012. I just got my car back this year. Well, I got a new car. I didn't get the same car I had last time, but from the YouTube money, I was seeing how it was going, and it was just enough for me to be able to get over the hump to get enough money to have a car. Before that, with my graphic design money, it was enough for me to pay my rent, eat, and that's it, nothing else. But now I'm able to do much more. I'm able to get all this equipment in here, because before that, like I say, all I had was this phone. Now you see this microphone. I have this nice HD camera right here. I got a new computer. I have a lot of different things that I'm able to, get the message out there in a much more clean and efficient way. Before that, I pretty much had nothing. I haven't had any negative effects, really. Nobody's really stopped doing business with me because of my stuff, because of what I do. If anything, it's helped my life more. Before I started it, I was thinking maybe some people will leave because they don't like my viewpoint, but I can't be you can't be risk averse in life like that. You can't just be scared to say, oh, well, they're not going to like me anymore. I'm not going to, if you got the power, if you, in my situation, you're self-employed, you got the power to be able to take and leave people. You get options as far as what you want to do with your career. Just go for it, man. Don't be scared. I wasn't scared. I just went out and did it, and it's worked out tremendously for me. And I got no regrets. Destroyer 961 asks, what are your views on Freemasonry and the Bilderberg group? I don't know much about it, to be perfectly honest. So, I leave that to the 5% Nation Hotep guys that I used to kick it with back in the day. Infinity Hand asks, how does it feel being one of the only intelligent black men on social media? Colin Kaepernick, Jesse Williams, etc. I guess those guys are being examples of people that are not intelligent. Well, I say that, just being able to be me. I can't really judge the people that are out there that are intelligent or not intelligent as far as black males. I can't really judge how many of us there are or not. I know that it's not that many. I know that the guys that get the most attention are not really intelligent, or they are intelligent, but they just had the wrong ideas. It's one thing to be, intellectually inferior. It's something else to have an idea you believe in that's not really true, that has its basis in falsehood. And I think that is where Jesse Williams and Colin Kaepernick, really, like I said before, with them, it's more about their personals. It's their own internal demons. They don't feel black enough. They grew up probably thinking that they weren't really all the way black or all the way white. Kimpachi Beast and Murphy, it's you, both asked, well, they didn't ask the same question, but I digress. Dear Anthony, I've been subscribed to you for a while. My question is, how do you think police in the U.S. can change the way they handle U.S. citizens? Should they be trained better, or do you think the problem goes farther than training can fix? Should the higher level government take more responsibility to keep police officers in check from not committing any lethal or illegal acts? And if the government fails to bring criminal police to justice, should the people start taking justice into their own hands? Well, the problem is not police training. The problem is just unruly citizens. You got to train the citizens better to deal with the police. That's pretty much all it is. What you're seeing right now in the media is the media just overblowing things to try and get attention and ratings. That's all that it is. A lot of the media, they're losing attention. They're losing viewers to guys like myself, Stefan Molyneux, Young Turks, anybody that has alternative media that's not in the machine, because people don't really watch TV like that anymore. I don't even watch TV, and I'm a content creator. I watch the news, the local news, and live sports on occasion, but that's it. So people are not watching TV anymore. So the way they got to be able to get viewers is by having these kind of race bait and hot button issues to get attention. So then it makes people around the world in different countries, and also Americans themselves, think that it's a big problem with the police when it's really not. Bui Wiggy asks, hey, Mr. Logan, what's going on, Bui Wiggy? I'm a nonpartisan outsider, what most call an independent. I'm mostly a former Democrat, but I voted Republican. I voted for Bush 41, Clinton, Bush 43, Kerry, Obama. After learning the true history of the Democratic Party, I've come to believe that the Democratic Party is responsible for something I refer to as the 8 Ps. from plantation to partition, from persecution to the projects, from poverty to problems, from prosecution to the prisons. Most Democrats have been so conditioned to believe in a false narrative. Every time I explain the 8Ps to a leftist, they get really angry. My question is, do you agree with my 8P analogy? I think you're pretty much on point there. I pretty much agree with that. And I don't have too much to add. As far as people on the left, they're going to be angry. That's how they are. But all you can do is just talk to individuals that really want to hear you. And sometimes you can't tell with a leftist, because some leftists are kind of like in the closet, and some may reform themselves. I think, like you said, because you grew up in Amherst and they're teaching you certain things and you had to just kind of grow up and see things for yourself. And I think that's the only way to be able to reform a leftist. And there's not much you can do outside of that. Sindri Blood asks, how do we go from breaking segregation and working towards equality to complete 60-year reverse? Well, it's easy. The Great Society, 1960s. That's it. Forced integration, all of that stuff just reignited racial tension. I think segregation was better. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. Big Poop RR, Mon P, Michael, all ask, how was your childhood? What shaped you to have the political opinions you have today? And or have you experienced a lot of racism growing up? Like I said earlier, I had certain experiences in my childhood. It was pretty good for the most part. I lived in a single parent household. My parents were married when I was born, but they got divorced when I was about three or four. But they were together for a long time in total before I was born, and then a few years after I was born. So I was still able to have good bonds with both sides of the family. In the summertime, I go up to West Virginia and stay at my mother's grandmother, my great grandmother. May God rest her soul. And I'll also stay with my grandparents on my father's side. May God rest their soul as well. So it was all good for the most part. I knew I lived in a low income area. I knew we didn't have money. And I knew my mother was struggling. My father worked a bunch of jobs. He was a firefighter. And at one point he had like 4 jobs. We had a lot of family issues that we had to kind of deal with. At one point, my dad had like 10 adults in the house he was the head of. It was crazy. So a lot of that stuff was happening, but at the same time, I had relative peace. I was able to just play my video games, read my books, and go to school and get straight A's. So it was all right, but I knew that I could do better than what I was doing. I knew I could live in a better situation. I knew that as I grew up, I could take advantage of technology. Quick story. When I was about 10 years old, my mother bought a computer from this white family. It was like a secondhand computer. And I remember the scene was kind of crazy when we went to their house. It was like you had the mother, the father, maybe 1 or 2 kids, just kind of like almost like a family portrait, just sitting there looking at us. It was very strange. But I almost felt like they knew that they were doing something for me to help me advance. And exactly what happened, because I saw that when I had that computer, I knew that this here could really just advance me out of this low income area, and it could really do something for me in my future, which it has. I ain't turned back since. I'm got this computer right now that I built. I built my first rig when I was like 19, 20, something like that. And I've been able to use that continuously, having a stable environment, being able to just focus and build skills to get me out of a low income area. I had great mother, great father. They did the absolute best they could, and they kept a stable roof over my head and a stable home environment for the most part. So that's pretty much what it was. Alkebulan is us as Anthony. What are your thoughts on a little black girl crying at that Charlotte City Council meeting? Now the liberals are giving victimized acting lessons to their children. I have not seen that, but it doesn't surprise me. That's how liberals operate. They use props. They don't care who it is. Little children, dead people, they don't care. They just vow people. Defending the Second and Megamind both ask, do you think that if Hillary becomes president, our nation will be invaded by a foreign military like China or Russia starting World War III? I don't think China or Russia would do anything, because the U.S. is kind of very important with trade and stuff like that in China. And also it would disrupt the world balance. But I think we're in World War III right now. And look at what's going on over there in the Middle East. I think if anything will start a bigger war, it'd be if somebody invades Iran. That'd be mutually assured destruction more than going to Russia or China would be. The White Death, Thorny Dig 8, Robert Angley, Tex Truther, Piper Schulenberg, and the real Miss Z all asked me, are you a veteran or a patriot or both? Do you have a military background? No, I'm not a veteran. I'm a patriot, 100% a patriot. I love my state. I love my country. I love both. And that's pretty much all it is with that. I'm not a veteran, but my father was in the military. He was in the Marine Corps. Matter of fact, I got a picture. This is Dad right here. Paris Island, back in the late 70s, I think. I was not in the military, but my father was. He was in the Marines for 3 years, and he was also in, I think, the Air Force Reserves right during 9/11. And he almost got sent to Middle East during that period of time, but he didn't. I forgot what happened, but he didn't get sent over. Actually, I know what happened, but I can't tell you that. I may save that for my book, but I digress. And my father's father, was also in the military for a short period of time. I'm not quite sure what branch. And my uncle, my mother's brother, was in the Navy for 20 years. So I was kind of brought up around military people. And living in Virginia, in this area, Hampton Roads, it's a big military area. Norfolk, right around the corner, you got the biggest naval base in the world. So I've been exposed to a lot of military stuff, but I'm not a veteran. I've not been in armed services, but I kind of have that vibe to me because of what I grew up around. Clean Ski, Almost Special, Nat S, Baxter Romington, Nigel 106, David Torrens, JB Logic, Arisp 86, Josh Jones, Mayday Da Vinci, Money Killer, all asked me, do you have a job besides YouTube? What do you do for a living? Well, like I said earlier, I'm a full-time graphic designer. I've been doing that since 2007. At one point, I had a agency. We had probably about 15 people in there working. Well, the way the agency worked was we had a suite with different offices in it. So you come in, we got a front desk. You might have 2 hot girls up there working. Yes, hot girls. Shout out to y'all. You know who you are. But you might have 2 girls up there working the desk. Right. You come in, you say, okay, I need to get a flyer done. I was a flyer guy. I can make a flyer for you. And then they say, well, and then the girls would ask them, well, do you have any pictures to go on the flyer? Nah, I got my cell phone. And this is back in like 2007, 2008, where if you had a cell phone picture, it wasn't really good. It ain't like today with the fancy iPhones with 4K and all that. No. The pictures back then on cell phones were not very good. So what ended up happening was, we'll say, well, going back to my man, going back to Bird, shout out to Bird. He's a photographer and he was the main guy that, was in control of the whole situation. Go back there to him and get your pictures done. Go back to him and get a video done. Right. We had in-house print. We had this big kind of Minolta. We could print 13 by 19. We can print box and cut right back there. And we also had kind of like a recording studio a little bit. We had a bay, like a photo bay with the, maybe green screen, white backdrop, changing room, all kind of stuff we had back there. You can get your website done, flyers done, etc. We did that for probably about 2.5 years. And what brought it down was that we kind of expanded too fast and people kind of got big heads. At one point, you had individuals trying to start their own company, which was an epic fail. And through all of that, we still kind of hung around, but we eventually dissolved like in 2009, late, probably October 09. And after that, I came home and still kept doing what I was doing because I was a flyer guy the whole time. I came into a situation with my own clientele and I left the same way. And I've been doing pretty much that ever since. I've gone to multiple clubs, restaurants, all of that. Mostly all black business, probably 90% black business, clubs, restaurants, barbershops, beauty salons, whatever. Everywhere around the whole area, I pretty much touched. At one point I would go, I was sending off gang run stuff. If you know about print, you know what I'm talking about. I was sending off gang runs. 4x6, 6x8, 5,000, 2,500, business cards, all of that. 4x3, whatever it was. I would have so many boxes on the pickup day. I would have a dolly bringing it to my truck twice a week. So that's what I did for a long time. But when the crisis hit in 2011, well, the crisis hit earlier than that, but when it hit us in this area back in 2011, all that stuff died down. And plus you had stuff like Instagram coming up and all of that. So then I got more into the website. So then I started doing websites, because before that I couldn't design a website. But then I knew how to develop websites, using WordPress and stuff like that. So then I started doing websites, added that onto my flyer stuff. And, then I started doing like small little videos, little montages. Then I added that into my repertoire. And that was enough to keep me kind of surviving and eating. Like I said earlier, it was not really enough for me to have a car or anything like that. So I had to sell my car. But I started just getting a little bit more traction. And now I'm into the YouTube stuff, which is a big part of my income. So I say I do both for a living. Little Ice Age. What do you think about Gary Johnson, regardless of the Aleppo mishap? I think Gary Johnson's just kind of a weird guy. He's not really libertarian. I don't know what he is. I think y'all deserve better than Gary Johnson and the Libertarian Party, honestly. And they came in for life 210, Kev 3D, Jelly Bryce, E Quack Cake, Tiger Shark, Brandon Burns all ask, what is your favorite food? Favorite food, I say probably fish, salmon, grilled salmon. I love it. Wild caught Alaskan, not no farm raised, nothing like that. Disgusting. Wild caught Alaskan salmon grilled is with some Brussels sprouts that are seasoned with pepper. Oh man, I'm good. That's to me, that's heaven. And beyond that, I like pizza. Yeah. Give me a good pizza, some Popeyes chicken or something like that. I'm on it. Robert Gash, Francisco Garcia, Catherine Jimenez, and 99 Brandon Carr all ask, why do you always say I digress? Well, it's just, I don't know. It's a way for me to be able to kind of bridge phrases together. When I feel myself kind of getting off the rails and going to a different topic, I say, but I digress. And I know a lot of y'all like it. I don't try to use it intentionally to try to please you necessarily, but I know that it's kind of like part of my thing, but it just kind of comes up naturally when I'm talking. Cat6928, who do you admire in the media, if anybody? Or do you like the commentators like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity? Did anybody inspire you to do this? Thanks. I like Rush. I like Sean Hannity. I like a lot of guys. I like even some of the old school guys. Let me show you this book. Downtown Tony Brown. He had a show back in the day, and Tony Brown is kind of a conservative, but not really. Let me see if I can do it over here. Yeah, he's kind of a conservative, but not really. And the thing about Tony Brown is that he's from West Virginia, just like me, and he actually went to school with my grandmother on my father's side, right? So his show is kind of like a left-leaning kind of show, but not really. And I saw a lot of that stuff from back in the day. And from my father's side of the family being from West Virginia, and also my mother's side being from West Virginia, it kind of struck home. And a lot of other guys that are black that commentate kind of like conservative stuff, but really the main guy, like I said earlier, was Sargon of Akkad, and I saw his Patreon, and then I saw what he was doing. It just made sense for me to do it. It inspired me to get on YouTube, but before that, there's a lot of guys that inspired me to just talk about politics in general, just like Tony Brown. CHR Ra asks or says, ABL, congrats, you deserve it. Thank you, I appreciate it. Do you think Trump can now go after HRC because of the statements made by Chelsea? He took the moral high ground and they took the bait, solidifying the position that the Clintons will do and say anything to win. I think that at this point, he has no need to really attack as much. At this point, he has us on the right. So there's no need to continuously try to please us. What he could do right now is just go after the central people. And you don't do that by attacking, in my opinion. None of your business asks, Is your shirt tucked in when you do these videos? No, never. Sharon Hurst asks, something I never understood. I never saw black and white before Obama came into office. 2 questions. Do you think always referencing the distinction of a person in black or white causes some of the division? And do you feel Obama has made things worse when he came into office? As Americans, we should unite. We have enough enemies on the outside. Thanks. Well, you can't really ignore race because it's here. I think that we always reference black and white before Obama came into office, and it was not these racial problems that we have today. Matter of fact, we did it more before he came into office. We have comedians talk about, black jokes, white jokes, and it was not this big outrage. I think a lot of what's going on, what's causing the divide is this. Your smartphone, you can pretty much just scroll through it all day and get triggered if you want to. I think that's a big problem that's going on today. Is people are living through their phones too much and just having that attached to their face, to their eyes, to their hands, and that can just feed them hate, and then they just buy into it. It could feed them whatever, and they buy into it. It could say, okay, the new craze is getting high on heroin, and then they go out and do it seriously. And then the second part of that has made things worse. Yeah, I don't think that he is responsible for the smartphone stuff, but I think that his rhetoric has most certainly made things worse because, the whole thing about Skip Gates and then if Trayvon was my son, all of that kind of stuff does not help. Nathan Allen Pinyard says, what moment did you decide that posting these videos with your face was something that you wanted to do? How'd you justify it? Most people decide to come up with avatars. Well, the thing about it is this is easier for me to do. Before I was recording my voice and I would do like a lot of editing on my actual audio. It was very time consuming, and also not just the audio, but coming up with different pictures and stuff like that. I might have 40 pictures in the video. It was time consuming to come up with to get the pictures, to get them right in Photoshop in the right dimensions. It was very time consuming, but this here just makes more sense. And my father always told me that I had a good look to myself, like a good, face, and that I could use that to my advantage. So it just made sense, really, just to keep it this way. It was simpler. It was a better way to be able to get messages across so you could see me looking straight at you. And then also, I know kind of how I come across. I'm like your average black guy as far as how I look, as far as how I sound. But then when you hear me speak, it's different. So it kind of catches you kind of off guard a little bit. And I know that about myself. I know a lot of different things I don't say. And all those things have contributed to me showing my face. Oh, and second part of his question, I've wanted to come up with a commentary for a channel for a while, but I can't even imagine some of the backlash you'd get on Facebook and Twitter or from family and friends. And did you ever second guess yourself in terms of facts? Well, the backlash I don't worry about. And second guessing myself, no. If I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm talking about. I do a lot of reading and research, understand what I'm saying. And I'm pretty solid on that. Baytegs 900. MF Mitchell, Miana, PC Principal, Keats 27, Soledad, and Christian Schaefer all ask, hey Anthony, congratulations on your milestone. Thank you, I appreciate it. I appreciate your videos and your insights on these political issues. My question is, do your friends and family know about your channel, and do they see eye to eye with you politically? For my family and friends, I feel like I'm the only Trump supporter, so I keep my views to myself and gnash my teeth when people spew nonsense without any logical reasoning behind it. Well, yeah, everybody knows. Everybody knows. And I've had some knockdown, drag out arguments with people. My dad being one of them. On the phone. Nobody has ever been able to confront me face to face and say how they really feel. And if they have, they come away not feeling the same way they feel anymore. Because I'm a charismatic kind of guy. And I know how to talk to people. So if you got a problem with me, let's talk face to face. A lot of them don't want to talk to me face to face because they know how I am. They know that if they talk face to face, they can't be angry anymore. And I think some individuals just want to be angry. And it's not even about me. It's just about how they feel personally. So I don't get mad at anybody that does not want to have a conversation with me. I know that they're dealing with some personal demons that have nothing to do with me personally. It's all about them. So I don't even worry about that. If you or anyone else want to have some kind of channel, you want to speak your mind, don't be worried about what friends and family think. just do it. And if they really your friends, if they really your family, they'll support you regardless. If they're not supporting you, then they're not your friends anyway. Because think about it. What about if you're in a dangerous situation, your life and death situation? Is that person going to be there for you? If they're going to turn their back on you when you just have a different opinion, what happens when you have a serious ailment, when you really need them to come in, and be there for you? Are they going to be there? Probably not.